Hi everyone, it's Liam here from Rating the Races. So as with my videos from now on, what we're going to do is this will be going out to premium members as soon as it's finished, and it will go out to free members in the morning. Now obviously sometimes that does mean you get shorter prices on selections. For example, at the weekend we had Go Dante winning at 8s and we had Ho Jolie Smoke winning at 7s. They both went off shorter prices than that. They actually came from the early analysis videos, which premium and pro members got, but free members didn't get to see that. They only got to see the on the day analysis. So sometimes you will see that when you're watching these videos, if you're a free member, the prices have significantly shortened. If you want to get those earlier prices on the back of the analysis, sign up for a premium or pro member account. So let's look at Cheltenham. A lot of our selections are already done. There are going to be a couple added, a couple added for tomorrow, Tuesday. We'll have a look first at the first race, the Supreme Novice, and we're not going to add one here. We've already got Work Ahead, who, yeah, I've got no issues with Work Ahead at all. I think his form is very good, and I think he's kind of a little bit underappreciated for his efforts. His third, when behind Jasmine DeVoe and the Enabler, I think was really good form. Hadn't run for 678 days, was clearly going to need the run, and then came out and won at Leopardstown and was a very impressive winner at Leopardstown. The form's backing up and stacking up really well. The runner-up, William Money, has since come out and won, and there's very little between them in the prices. If we have a look, Work Ahead and William Money. Work Ahead beat William Money by 7 lengths. I don't see William Money reversing that form at all. So William Money came out and finished second in a maiden hurdle behind Kawabunga, which was good form, and then went and won a listed race at Punchestown. Going back to the Work Ahead win, beat Sprint de la Mer, who finished third. Sprint de la Mer has since come out and finished, has had 2 wins over fences. The fourth horse, Redemption Day, a really good bumper horse in his time. I think he even won the Cheltenham bumper. No, he didn't. He finished second in the Grade 1 at Punchestown behind Facile Vega. Finished second in the Grade 2 at Leopardstown. Yeah, really good hurdler. Really good bumper horse. Has since come out and won a maiden hurdle yesterday. The fifth horse, Jacob's Ladder, has also come out and won. Twice at Navan in a maiden hurdle and then at Naas in a Grade 3. I mean, the form is stacking up, and Work Ahead was super impressive beating those. I'm not going to add any more to this. We've got Work Ahead, we're on at 10s. Yeah, I think Work Ahead is very much underappreciated in this race and very much reminds me of Slade Steele last year. All eyes were on Mystical Power, Tully Hill and Firefox for Willie Mullins and Gordon Elliott. And Slade Steele slowly got backed in during the day and ended up winning the race. Granted, it's turned out not to be the strongest of Supreme Novices. But Henry de Bromhead's horses are kind of overlooked a little bit in this race until near the off, and then they do get backed in on their ability. If you are still interested in backing Work Ahead and you're only just getting to this video, you can currently get 13 to 2. You can get 7s at Bet365, but that's an outlier. 8's an outlier as well. So you can get 13 to 2 about Work Ahead. It's just got to beat Kopek de Board. How good is Kopek de Board? I mean, I'd be prepared to take a chance on Work Ahead, even at that sort of price, that we can get Kopek de Board beat. Remember, he's got a hood on, which is meant to be a negative, so maybe he's not as straightforward as it appeared last time, or maybe that race wasn't even that strong last time. Work Ahead's form is definitely strong, and yeah, I'm quite happy with him in the Supreme Novice, and he's our only selection in the Supreme Novice. We move on to, as you can see actually, the ratings are open because it's the first race of the day. All first races of the day, every single day, not just during Cheltenham, but every single day of the year, the first race of the day, the ratings are always open. So we move on to the 2 o'clock, the Arkle. We can't see the ratings. you can have a guess who might be top rated in this. It's Majborough. I can give that away. And to be honest, I think Majborough is going to take all of the beating here. I don't have any negatives about him. Majborough is a graded horse. L'Eau de Soude is a graded horse in the UK or in England. Can beat other British trained horses, but as soon as it comes up against a good Irish horse, I think L'Eau de Soude will be found wanting, and the others just aren't good enough in my opinion. Only by Night, Touch Me Not, and Django Bay, they're not as good as L'Eau de Soude. L'Eau de Soude obviously got beat last year in a county hurdle. Had been beaten in a more battle hurdle. You know, plenty of handicaps. I know they were hurdles. Would Majborough have got beat in a county hurdle off the sort of mark that L'Eau de Soude was running off? No. Majborough came to Cheltenham, beat Carges. I think that's really good form. Can't see Majborough getting beat, to be honest. I think he's going to win this quite cosily, 8-9 lengths sort of thing. It could be one that you end up putting in a multiple. Very, very short at the moment at 4-7, but that's about right, to be honest. Moving on to the 240. Now we've got two in this that have been declared to take their chance. The first one that we will talk about is Broadway Boy. Still really keen on Broadway Boy. Beginning of the season, they were definitely talking about a potential Gold Cup tilt with Broadway Boy. Hasn't quite worked out. After finishing third on his return, I thought that was a perfectly good effort, finishing third, beaten by Senior Chief in the short go. We were obviously on Senior Chief that day. I thought that was a really good run, and Broadway Boy, in my opinion, on that occasion was not there to win the race. He was there to get fitness with the Coral Gold Cup at Newbury in mind. They went to the Coral Gold Cup and they ran a really good race for second, a little bit unlucky. That came off a mark of 148, and you would think, yes, maybe he is going to end up as a Gold Cup horse. I kind of feel that come January they've already decided that the Ultima was the plan, not the Gold Cup, not any of the Grade 1s, and I feel that they went to Cheltenham in January and they had no interest in winning the race. I honestly believe that although they'll come back and say he had excuses, I think the excuses were he wasn't fit and he wasn't really there to run his race. They were possibly hoping they might get him dropped a couple of pounds. They didn't. Still has to run off the 150 mark, but I mean, I think he's the best horse in this race. I think he's the best handicapped horse in this race, and I think he might end up in the graded races next season, off the back of winning this race hopefully tomorrow. We might end up seeing him maybe at Aintree in the Grade 1. The second horse that we like in this race, so you can, if you still wanted to back Broadway Boy, you can currently get 15-2. We're obviously on at 20s, much better price than what he is now. So we're in a good position with Broadway Boy. Second horse we're not in a good position with, to be honest, because it has drifted, and that is Trelawn, who is down, where is he? Down here. You can now get 33s about Trelawn, you can get 6 places as well if you were thinking about doing it each way. I think he's overpriced on the basis that last year he actually went off the 5-1 second favourite for this race off a mark of 144. Granted, he's got to run now of 152 because he won that graduation chase at Haydock, beating Iroko and beating Deafening Silence. Now, they were definitely thinking that he's a Gold Cup horse. They campaigned him last year very cleverly, kept running in good races though, behind the likes of Colonel Harry, Ginny's Destiny, Grey Dawning, Billy again. I mean, it was really good form, to be fair, and he was very unlucky when he came to Cheltenham when he fell. I think it was at the second, very frustrating. Went off 5-1. Now, a couple of things that are interesting there. He went off 5-1, which is actually a shorter price than Kim Bailey's other horse, who went on to win the race, Chianti Classico. That could have been, you know, that was probably suggesting that they really fancied this Trelawn off his 144 mark. On his return this season, I was gutted that he was running in the graduation chase because I felt he could win that race and ruin his handicap mark. They kind of did, when he won that, obviously he went up £8 for that. He still ran okay since. He finished 4th in the Howden Silver Cup behind Victorino, the Changing Man, and 3 under through 5. Now, in hindsight, that's probably not bad form. Victorino has since come out and won again at Ascot, beating 3 under through 5. 3 under through 5, 3 under through 5, who was third, has since come out and finished second. And the Changing Man, who was second, has since come out and finished second again at Doncaster in the Great Yorkshire Chase, and then gone and won a Grade 2 at Ascot. It was Grade 2 in name only after the fall of Jinko Blue. It was a very poor Grade 2. However, at least he's, consistently ran well again, finishing second in a handicap of a £2 higher mark, and then at least won at the Grade 2 at Ascot, demonstrating that form actually is potentially quite good. Trelawn, it didn't seem to work that day. Only went a 4-1, so a similar sort of price to Victorino and the Changing Man. If we use that as our angle, we can see Trelawn is down here at 33s. The other two that I've just mentioned, the Changing Man is down here at 7s and 15-2. Victorino is a bit bigger at 25s and 28s, but Victorino is an Ascot specialist, and that's where Victorino was winning. But if we went purely on the Changing Man form, it wasn't that far behind the Changing Man. The Changing Man is up 3. Trelawn is down. The Changing Man is up 5. Trelawn runs off the same mark. And they were a similar sort of price in the betting on that occasion. Why isn't Trelawn a little bit shorter? I don't think he wants the slog, the soft heavy going. I think he'll be absolutely fine on this better going. You could argue that his last time out effort in the Sky Bet Petermas Chase wasn't the best, considering the opposition that he was taking on. That they're harder for sure at Cheltenham. I still think it was a decent effort, and back on this better going, I think he's going to run a bigger race than what his odds suggest. And at 33s. If I hadn't backed him at 25s, I'd probably ever go on him now at 33s. We are going to leave one alone in this race that will frustrate me if it does go and win, but I do want to mention it. And that is the Short Go. Now, I'm leaving it alone for a couple of reasons. One, it's coming off the back of a fall. That would always be tricky to overcome. Also, it's Irish trained. Irish trained horses actually don't have a very good record in this race. British trained horses are significantly, much better record. So I'm leaving that one alone, the Short Go. However, it wouldn't totally surprise me if the Short Go did go and win this. His effort behind Senior Chief was a very good effort at Cheltenham over this course and distance, or nigh on this course and distance. They were in front of Broadway Boy that day. However, as I've said, I think Broadway Boy that day was being ridden or came there purely for fitness. He went off 9-4. The Short Go went off 9-1. I feel that the Short Go was probably trying, Broadway Boy wasn't. Now that they're both going to be trying, Broadway Boy probably will be able to beat the Short Go. So, yeah, that's my angle for leaving the Short Go alone, is that I feel we've got the one that will beat it anyway in the Broadway Boy. And if Broadway Boy doesn't win the race, then the Short Go will be even further behind. So they are my two that I'm still happy with in the Ultima. They are Trelawn and Broadway Boy. We then move on to the Mayor's Hurdle, which obviously is under a bit of fire because Lossiemouth has decided to run here. Or not, the horse hasn't decided to run. Willie Mullins has decided to run Lossiemouth here. In my opinion, I think it's the right decision for a couple of reasons. Lossiemouth has had 2 runs this season over 2 mile and got beat in both. Fell at Leopardstown in a race featuring Stateman and got completely outpaced by Constitution Hill in the Christmas Hurdle at Kempton. That could be good enough to finish second. Constitution Hill may well go and win the Champion Hurdle, and 2.5 lengths back may well have been good enough for second. But it would have only been good enough for second. I do not believe Lossiemouth has the pace for 2 mile, and that's why they're going up in trip. Up in trip, back over 2.5. She's unbeaten over 2.5, including beating Teapu earlier on in the season at Fairyhouse. They're going there to win the race rather than we might You know, we've got Constitution Hill to beat, we've got Stateman to beat, we've got Brighter Days Ahead to beat. They might go, we're not even the best mare in the race. You know, now we're already fighting for third in the Champion Hurdle. And if they still think Stateman has plenty to give, they might be going, she's not even as good as Stateman, we're going to finish fourth. What would be the point in finishing fourth in a Champion Hurdle? I think they've made the right decision here coming for the Mares' Hurdle. She is going to be the one to beat here. The negative you'd have against her, she's coming back off a fall. So if you do want to take her on, who would you take her on with? I would be quite keen to take her on with Jade de Grugy, and we're actually already on Jade de Grugy. Unfortunately, terrible price compared to what she is now, because we were not expecting Lossiemouth in this race. We've only got 9-4 about Jade de Grugy, but if Lossiemouth doesn't turn up, or the right Lossiemouth doesn't turn up, Jade de Grugy I think is the one to beat for sure. And I think she'll finish second if Lossiemouth does win it. 2.5, she's very good, beaten everything over that sort of trip. The only time she got beat last season was in the Mares' Novice Hurdle when finishing 4th over 2 mile. She just doesn't have the pace for 2 mile. She needs 2.5. Golden Ace, Brighter Days Ahead, Birdie or Bust were too good for her that day, but Jade de Grugy went off 2-1. Sorry, Brighter Days Ahead 5-6. They thought those two would be the front two, and I think Jade de Grugy will again be one of the front two in the betting. You know, it'd be quite surprising to see July Flower actually be backed in more and Jade de Grugy drift, but it's all about whether she can beat Lossiemouth. If Lossiemouth doesn't quite show her form, and maybe, you know, you could go, what if that Constitution Hill win at the beginning of the season at Kempton was a really flat performance and Lossiemouth still couldn't beat Constitution Hill, and then Lossiemouth was not going to beat Stateman at Leopardstown? That's how we could get Lossiemouth beat with Jade de Grugy. There's lots of ifs and buts there. Lossiemouth is the one to beat. Jade de Grugy, I think, will finish second now, unfortunately, but we're already on, so we will be cheering on Jade de Grugy. So no extras in that. Moving on to the 4 o'clock, the Champion Hurdle. Personally, I think Constitution Hill is the one to beat here. Again, another one we're unfortunately on a terrible price, to be honest. If I hadn't backed him already, I'd probably be tempted to back him now. Stateman has won this race and has finished second to Constitution Hill. That second behind Constitution Hill could well be good enough to finish second again. And if Constitution Hill doesn't show up and the mare's, you know, Brighter Days Ahead demonstrates that actually she's just been beating moderate horses in Ireland, and Stateman bounces back to his best, because there was no way that Brighter Days Ahead is that far clear of Stateman on their running earlier on in the season. If I hadn't backed Stateman earlier at 6s, I'd back him now at 11s. I think that's a huge price for Stateman, who does have good form at the Cheltenham Festival. Granted, Constitution here is definitely the one to beat, in my opinion. Moving on to the 440, and we are going to have an extra selection in this. We just have the one that's running for us at the moment, and that is Mercia. Now, Mercia is one of these that, if it goes and wins, you say, well, it was obvious that she shouldn't have been the price she was. She was always going to run well. She finished second at Naas in that rated hurdle that has so often thrown up the winner, or those that have gone really close in this Fred Winter. Even last year, Lark in the Morning was due to run in the rated hurdle and was taken out just before the off. They then went to Cheltenham and won the Fred Winter. Mercia was very unlucky, I thought, at Naas. I picked her out quite a way out, thinking she's the one I'm interested in for the Fred Winter. Don't get too close, and she actually ran, you know, really close all the way to the line. I was gutted that she got so close. In hindsight, though, it might not be a bad bit of form. The winner, Bacchanalian, has since come out and won again, winning a Grade 3 by 11 lengths. Maybe it's really good form from Bacchanalian and Mercia, and Mercia could be one of these that yeah, it could look obvious come the finish that it was that race. Mercia had some decent form. She'd come over to Ireland and they'd plopped her straight into a Grade 2 juvenile hurdle. She only went off 7s that day. Yeah, they obviously felt she was very capable, and that probably come off the back of her comfortable win in a listed race. She won by 12 lengths in a fillies listed race. She's only running the handicap. She's not running in the graded Triumph hurdle. She's running in the handicap. She could be very interesting, to be honest. We're on at 12s. She's still available at 12s. I have no issues with Mercia. I think she's going to run a really nice race, to be honest. The second horse that I do want to back is a little bit further down in the betting, and it's this one here, Holy See at 25s. On the basis that, actually, last time out in that rated hurdle, Bacchanalian went off 7-2, Mercia went off 7-2, Holy See went off the 6-4 favourite. Was that on the back of being beaten in a maiden hurdle behind Out for a Stroll, Bacchanalian and Shoda? Was it on the basis of being beaten by Charles in a maiden hurdle? Potentially. I also thought he was shorter than what he should have been that day on what he'd shown, possibly suggesting that they think he is really nicely handicapped. And with that in mind, the fact that he's getting to run off a lowish mark, considering he went off favourite last time, why is he such a big price? I would have him as significantly closer in the betting to Mercia on the basis of that. And Holy See's form, you know, as I've just mentioned, beaten by the likes of Bacchanalian before. Bacchanalian has that form with Mercia and has that form in graded company now. Yeah, Holy See off a very low 125 could be very interesting for this race. Very unexposed. 3 runs, not yet won a race, which I always like in handicaps when they're stepping into handicaps, because the handicapper doesn't really know what mark to give the horse. Has the cheek pieces on as well. I'm quite hopeful of a big run here from Holy See under Oakley Brown, taking off that 5 again. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if Holy See demonstrated why he went off favourite last time by running a really big race in this Fred Winter. So that's one I am adding at 25-1. That's Holy See. And the final horse, or the final race that I want to talk about, is obviously the last race of the day, which is the National Hunt Challenge Cup. It's back to a handicap, so got to be interested in looking at the handicap marks. And there are 2 here that I like. So the first one we've already talked about in previous videos. It's Transmission with Patrick Mullins on board. To be honest, I don't mind Patrick Mullins in this race. He can sit out the back, wait patiently, do absolutely nothing, and then pick up late on. That's Patrick's ride. If you can get Patrick to sit on a horse that travels really well at the back, he can creep them into it. I know a lot of people, especially on X, really don't like him as a jockey. I think he's quite good when he's on quietly ridden horses. And, you know, he kind of demonstrated that when winning at Cheltenham back in November. Held up at the back, came through nicely to win it. Patrick gets to keep the ride, or gets back on board after the horse has since been to Cheltenham in a novice handicap chase when second behind Haiti Couleur. And then they dropped him down to hurdles. They were looking after his handicap mark. I think Transmission's going to run a really nice race here. Just keep an eye out for Patrick travelling oh so well at the back. The second horse that I want to talk about is Heracles Westwood. Now this is on the basis of, yes Liam, you are right. When Heracles Westwood went to Windsor, beat Deafening Silence and Jericho Road really, really impressively. I was really taken by the performance of Heracles Westwood. I thought it was a huge performance, and the handicapper went £5. I was, in my head I went, that's nowhere near enough. Should be 8, 10. I thought it was so impressive. Deafening Silence that day did absolutely nothing wrong. given a perfect ride by Harry Skelton, jumped beautifully, and yet Heracles Westwood caught him up, went past him, sprinted clear, and then did absolutely nothing after the last under James Bowen. I thought it was a massive performance, to be honest, and that £5 wasn't going to be enough. He then went to Newbury and disappointed. Things didn't work out that day. I kind of feel he was a little bit too far behind and was never able to get involved because of the way the race was run. This race over this trip will mean that they don't quicken away, in my opinion, and the stamina that Heracles Westwood has, that I think he has, can come to the fore late on. I think this is the sort of trip for Heracles Westwood. I think he just got outpaced at Newbury, whereas when they went a decent pace at Windsor, he was able to use his stamina and come into it really nicely. I'm a big fan, to be honest, of that. And if we look at the odds, Heracles Westwood is here at 20s. Even if we went purely on the basis of Jericho Row, that horse is still running off 133, I think. Just having a double check. Down £2, so he's £7 better off with our selection. But he's a much shorter price. You're hoping he doesn't bounce, whereas Heracles Westwood, I think, just needs to overcome that run last time out, and I think the trip will really suit him. I'm a big fan of Heracles Westwood. If it's not tomorrow, they can definitely find a handicap with him. But I think he will run a really nice race here, and at 20s I'm prepared to get involved on Heracles Westwood. So they are my selections for tomorrow. A quick recap. In the Supreme Novice, we're already on work ahead. I like that. I have no issues with that. The form has been franked again. In the Arkle, if you want to find something to put in multiples, Majborough is probably that. I think he's gonna win quite comfortably, to be honest. In the Ultima, we're on Broadway Boy and Trelawn, both thought of as potential Gold Cup horses at the beginning of the season. Broadway Boy is obviously our number one in that race, and we've got a decent price about him. In the mares, we're hoping Jade de Grugy can beat Lossiemouth. She's up against it now. Lossiemouth is very good. But at least Jade de Grugy does come into this off the back of a win, whereas Lossiemouth comes into it off the back of a fall. In the Champion Hurdle, if you haven't backed State Man, I actually think he's too big a price now. Yes, Brighter Days Ahead and Constitution Hill might be very good. I still think State Man's very good, and if there's chinks in their armour, Brighter Days Ahead got beat at Cheltenham, and Constitution Hill, is he fully fit? We'll never know. Yes, State Man is probably, in my opinion, the safest of those three. In the Fred Winter, we like Mercia. That form looks good anyway, plus it came from the right race. And Holy See is very unexposed and doesn't have a win to his name, which means it's much harder for the handicapper to get his mark right. And went off 6-4 favourite for that race last time out, the race that often throws up the winner of this Fred Winter. And finally, in the last race, Transmission under Patrick Mullins can creep round at the back, and hopefully Harry Cobden's sitting out at the back with him and can also creep into this race before making their challenge in the straight.